Wednesday is Tuesday at the Republican convention. We'll be hearing from the number 2 on the ticket and from Donald Trump's number 2 son.
I'm Nora O'Donnell. A Trump staffer owns up to messing up the Melania Trump speech, but the candidate doesn't write her off.
I'm Gayle King. I'll be on the floor with the Indiana delegation. It's their governor's big night. What do they know about him that we don't?
I'm Charlie Rose. Is the Trump campaign part of a political movement that can carry him to the White House?
I'm John Dickerson, and I'll be at the podium. After 2 nights of anti-Clinton, will we learn anything new about Donald Trump?
We're with the Republicans in Cleveland on CBS.
Let's show America our best and nothing less.
What begins in Cleveland will end in the White House.
We need to elect a man who has a track record of accomplishing the impossible.
Everywhere I look, I see the possibilities of what our country could be.
Now is the time for us to rise up and take America back.
We're going to bring real change and leadership back to Washington.
We can make America great again.
Campaign 2016. CBS News brings you the Republican National Convention. From the Quicken Loans Arena in Cleveland, Ohio, here are Scott Pelley and Nora O'Donnell.
The man who would be a heartbeat away from the presidency in a Trump administration will introduce himself to America tonight. Mike Pence, governor of Indiana, will accept the Republican nomination for vice president.
Hey, Scott, it's day 3. This is usually the night for the vice president to introduce himself to the American public, but Donald Trump has already stole the show tonight. Just as Ted Cruz, his former rival, was addressing this crowd and telling them to vote their conscience, the crowd booed, and who walked in? Donald Trump. Hollywood couldn't have scripted it any better.
Donald Trump walking in right as Cruz was trying to finish his speech, completely stealing the room from Cruz. John Dickerson is down there on the podium.
You know, tonight has been the most raucous and kind of unified roar from this crowd to a variety of speakers, and it was the night of the vanquish. Scott Walker endorsing Trump from the stage, getting everybody riled up. Marco Rubio, who's doubted whether Donald Trump could be commander-in-chief, had a statement here. He wasn't in the hall, but had a video in which those doubts about Donald Trump seemed to be dispelled. Then as Ted Cruz was talking, he said, vote your conscience. The New York delegation in front of him started booing him, all chanting, endorse Trump. He said, I appreciate the enthusiasm of the New York delegation. Then it spread across the room, continuing to boo him as he was leaving the stage. The thrust of all the response was boos. At that moment, Donald Trump comes down and walks into the VIP box.
John Dickerson thanks Donald Trump's 32-year-old son, and executive vice president of the Trump Organization, has taken the podium. Let's listen in.
For a man I love so much, that's my father. "13 months ago, my father sat my family down and told us the time had come. He could no longer sit idly by and watch our beloved country, the country that had given our family so much success, so much opportunity, crumble before our very eyes. He confirmed to us that he was prepared to announce his candidacy for President of the United States. He made sure to acknowledge that ours would not be an easy path, that we should prepare ourselves for what was to come, that we'd quickly learn who our true friends were. Without hesitation, we each committed our unwavering support. But this time, none of us could have predicted what lay ahead. The records he would break, the stadiums he would fill, the movement he would start. Today, my father stands before you with the most primary votes of any Republican candidate in the history of our nation. He shattered voter registration records across the country. He has defied the predictions of every single political pundit and turned traditional debates into must-see TV. He has inspired multiple generations, including my own, like millennials like myself, who have so little faith in our politicians that they no longer even consider public service to be a noble career. A year ago, my father was a businessman, but like many Americans, he simply could no longer stand to see what was happening to our great country. He could no longer stand to see special interest dollars dictate an incompetent foreign policy that puts foreign countries before our very own. He could no longer tolerate an inept administration that considers giving $150 billion to Iran or releasing 5 radical Islamic terrorists a successful negotiation. He can no longer bear witness to our continued Second Amendment attacks. He could no longer stand to see the words Christmas stripped from public use or the Pledge of Allegiance removed from our schools in an effort to be politically correct. So my father made the courageous decision to set aside a company to which he has dedicated his entire life, to set aside a global brand that he has made synonymous with success, with quality, with uncompromising, just the best. At a time when the people at the pinnacle of their career, like my father, would have held fast to a lifestyle that has truly become the epitome of the American dream, my father instead chose to give that dream back to the people it had eluded for so long. As daunting of a journey as he knew it would be, for him, it was the easiest decision in the world. After all, who better to implement common sense business approach to this country? Who better to apply practical solutions to the impractical decision-making of an administration that has bred a $19 trillion debt, one which goes up by $32,000 a second and over $2 billion a day? Who better implement common sense tax reductions for one of the highest tax nations in the world, allowing our citizens a chance to keep more of what they earn as opposed to having it squandered away by our inefficient government? Who better negotiate the return of countless American manufacturers like Nabisco and Ford and Carrier and so many others back to the United States where they began than a man who has single-handedly employed tens and tens and tens of thousands of people around the country? It's time for a president with common sense. It's time for a president who understands the art of a deal and appreciates the value of a dollar, our tax dollars. It's time for the president who has always been the one to sign the front of a check, not the back. Throughout my father's career, he has been repeatedly called on by government to step in and save delayed, shuttered, and grossly over-budget public projects, everything from the exterior of Grand Central Terminal in New York to the iconic old post office in Washington, D.C., just to name a few. Back in 1986, the city of New York tried to refurbish a simple ice skating rink in Central Park. The project dragged on for over 6 years and ballooned to over $13 million. $5 million over an already inflated budget. That's when my father, who overlooked this disastrous construction site from his office window each and every day, decided he had to step in. Disgusted by government incompetence and ineptitude, he invested $2 million of his own money in order to complete the project. What had taken the city over half a decade to botch, my father completed in less than 6 months, 2 months ahead of schedule, and over $1 million under budget. It's time for a president who can make America great again, ahead of budget and ahead of schedule, too. Thank you. My father has revitalized rundown neighborhoods, shaped skylines across the country, and turned dreams into reality his entire career. It's what he does. It's who he is. Oprah Winfrey once famously asked my father if he ever envisioned running for the presidency of the United States. His answer? Only if it got so bad that I had no choice. Only if it got so bad that I had no choice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that day has come. As I travel the world with my dad building the greatest golf courses and hotels and real estate projects, I see the unmistakable look in his eyes. I see in his eyes the indignity and frustration of a domestic infrastructure back at home that is in complete disarray and no longer on par with so many other developed nations. I see in his eyes the sadness of innocent lives lost, like those of Kate Steinle and Jamil Shaw, and so many others cut short by illegal immigrants in sanctuary cities, victims of a revolving door of government ineptitude and corruption that leaves innocent Americans defenseless. I see in his eyes the humiliation of an education system ranked 30th in the world. I see in his eyes the disgrace of nearly $400 billion trade imbalance with China, the $60 billion trade imbalance with Mexico, and the continued destabilization of the Middle East, which has cost our nation trillions and trillions of dollars and thousands of lives. But today I see in his eyes a man who truly loves his country, who is proud of his country, and who wants his country to be great again. Thank you. I want to thank my father over there for the life that he's provided me, for the life that he's provided my family, and the life that he's provided all of our employees around the world. I want to thank my father for the life that he's enabled me to provide to my future children as my beautiful wife Laura and I start thinking about that amazing chapter of our lives. To that end, I often think about the legacy I wish to leave my children. And to me, there are few things that I hold closer to my heart than charity. For me, it's the essence of who we are as human beings. It's the barometer by which we will be measured for our time here on earth. As Martin Luther King Jr. once said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? When I was 22 years old, I founded the Eric Trump Foundation to benefit St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, an incredible, incredible organization. I run my foundation based on the principles my father taught me: honesty, integrity, and values. I expect other charities to be run by the same moral code, not serve as conduit for personal enrichment, not become a beacon of corruption and scandal. To whom much is given, much will be required. This is the very belief that compelled my father to make this great sacrifice, to run for the most powerful yet unforgiving office in the world. There is no greater calling. There is no more selfless an act. To the unemployed voter sitting at home watching me right now, wondering how you're going to make your next mortgage payment or rent payment, my father is running for you. To the veteran tuning into the speech from his or her hospital, who has been ignored and disrespected by an ungrateful system for far too long, my father is running for you. To the school teacher forced to walk through metal detectors each and every day into an underfunded school, my father is running for you. To the laborer watching me right now, forced out of a job by undocumented workers, illegal immigrants, my father is running for you. To the oil and gas industry worker denied a job because of radical regulations from a radical EPA, my father is running for you. To single mothers, to families with special needs children, to middle-class families who can no longer afford medical benefits sufficient to cover their everyday needs, my father is running for you. This November, I ask you to be true to yourself and vote for the candidate who you know is running for the right reasons. Vote for the candidate who has never been a politician. Vote for the candidate who has never received a paycheck from our government. Thank you. Vote for the candidate who can't be bought, sold, purchased, bribed, coerced, intimidated, or steered from the path that is right and just and true. And quite frankly, friends, vote for the one candidate who does not need this job. Never have I been more proud to be a Trump. Never have I been more proud to be my father's son. I'm incredibly honored to be part of this journey of which he's invited me, Don, Ivanka, Tiffany, Melania, my beautiful wife Laura, our entire family to play such an integral part. Dad, you have once again taught us by example. You are my hero. You are my best friend. You are the next President of the United States. God bless America.
And that was Donald Trump's 32-year-old son, Eric, speaking before the Republican National Convention. And as you see there, his father has made a completely unexpected appearance to sit in the audience. But his entry into the hall, Nora, was very controversial in the way that it was timed.
Well, Ted Cruz, who Donald Trump famously called Lion Ted, went off script telling the delegates to vote their conscience up and down the ticket. He did not endorse Donald Trump. The delegates booed. Heidi Cruz was escorted out by security. One protester on the floor shouting Goldman Sachs at her. She works at Goldman Sachs. And so who stole the show? Donald Trump walking in. John Dickerson's been at the podium, witnessed all of this. Another day of drama here, John.
Yeah, actually, I think in a later transcript of the speech, he actually, the conscience line is in there, but they clearly didn't like it in the New York delegation and anywhere around here. Donald Trump appears to perhaps have left his speech to go see talk to his son, Eric, who was making the case for his father. There's been a lot of talk here about judge the tree by the fruits it bears. In other words, judge Donald Trump by his family. One of the striking lines in Eric Trump's speech was he said, "My father taught me honesty and integrity. That's the way I run my foundation. Every foundation should run itself that way." A direct shot at the Clinton Foundation without naming it, of course. So now we've had also, in addition, another development, which is that the power has gone out a little bit here. So the delegates have to just watch the actual speakers themselves, not the big monitors on which they've been displayed. So a little bit of excitement both with Donald Trump arriving and also a little technical issue there.
The power remains on. John, thank you very much. But all the video systems in the entire hall have gone down, all the giant screens. We're told that it's a technical issue with the video electronics and not the power in the hall. Gayle King is down there on the floor. Gayle?
Scott, they're making all kind of jokes on the floor like, How come nobody paid the bill? What happened? Didn't they know this convention was happening? And I have to say that when Ted Cruz did not endorse Donald Trump, I've been sitting with the Indiana delegation. They had been taking bets throughout the speech. Is he going to endorse? Is he not going to endorse? Many people thought he would, and when he didn't, everybody, as you heard, booed. But I have to say, the Indiana delegation has got to be the most excited group in the House. That's because there are 57 of them, and they say, America, get ready. They believe their governor, Mike Pence, is going to put on quite a show. They say the bigger the crowd, the bigger the stage, the better he is, and they believe he's going to knock it out of the park. We'll see in just a few minutes. Nora and Scott?
Gail, thank you very much. We're going to have all the action from the Republican National Convention when we return from Cleveland.
Today I see in his eyes a man who truly loves his country, who is proud of his country, and who wants his country to be great again.
A vote for anyone other than Donald Trump in November is a vote for Hillary Clinton.
Back now from Cleveland with Nora O'Donnell. Newt Gingrich has taken the stage, the former Speaker of the House who led Republicans to their first House majority in 40 years back in 1994. But before we listen in to Newt Gingrich, Nora, quite a controversy here earlier. Ted Cruz came out to speak to the crowd. He got a big standing ovation when he came out, but late in his speech, he told the people here, vote your conscience in November, and that did not go down well.
Well, remember, Ted Cruz got more delegates than any other Republican that's not the nominee since 1976, Ronald Reagan in 1976. He still got a lot of pledged delegates that he didn't let go. So, and he clearly still does not want to endorse Donald Trump for president. Does that mean now that Ted Cruz has overshadowed the big debut of Mike Pence before the American people, the man that they are trying to introduce as Donald Trump's running mate, the man they want to be one of the chief executives in the new Trump administration?
Trump came in, stepped on the end of Ted Cruz's speech, stole the show as Cruz was trying to wrap up. We're going to go down to the floor now and visit with Gail King, who's been talking to some of the delegates there. Gail?
I've been talking to them all evening long, Nora and Scott. They say that this is the biggest speech of Mike Pence's career, but they really are not nervous for him because they say that he will deliver. Yet most people in the room are saying, who is this guy? Well, you know what I've learned about him? He likes to draw caricatures, that he does great impressions of George W. Bush, that he has a great sense of humor, that he's a family man. But it's like that song from The King and I, getting to know you, getting to know all about you. Rudy Yakim III, Melissa Prophet. If we're talking about The King and I, getting to know you, getting to know all about you, you say Mike Pence is?
A man of honesty.
You say Mike Pence is?
A man of absolute integrity.
Integrity. And you all, when Donald Trump first appointed Mike Pence, what was your first reaction?
Well, I couldn't be more excited and proud to be a Hoosier and to be a Republican. We're proud of our governor, we're proud of our friend Mike Pence, and we're proud to be here today.
But you say that they have wildly different styles, but yet they make a good couple.
I think they make a great team together. They do indeed have wildly different styles.
How so?
They're very different from each other in terms of their mannerisms, their worldviews, the way that they approach problems, the way that they approach running a team. And I think that those differences will lend themselves well to not only the campaign trail, but also to being a president and vice president in the United States.
Their temperaments are different?
Very different temperaments. You know, Donald is certainly very much outgoing and very much flamboyant in his personality. Mike is a little bit more reserved. He's very much on the rails and just moving forward, very deliberative in his approach.
And Melissa, you said that he is not ego-driven.
No, he is a true public servant. He loved his job as governor, had full intentions of staying, but felt like this was a higher calling. And he does it all for the right reasons.
And let's talk about Ted Cruz for just a second. What did you think that he did not endorse Donald Trump tonight?
Well, I'm thrilled that he was here. I think he's a great Republican, but I was disappointed that he did not endorse. I thought it was a missed opportunity for him personally and for the party as a whole.
All right. Thank you very much. Nora and Scott, back to you. They say when the time is right, When we get to meet Mike Pence, we'll all be going, hooray, hooray. Donald Trump picked a good one. Back to you two.
Gail, thank you. On this day 3 of the convention, questions about unity within the Republican Party as Ted Cruz did not endorse Donald Trump. Major Garrett is also on the floor with a Cruz delegate. Major.
Hi, Nora. Scott, we are deep in the heart of Texas, the Texas delegation, that is. And I'm with Kendall Jessup from Longview, Texas. Kendall, you came here as a Ted Cruz delegate. Tell me what your reaction was to his speech and his refusal to endorse Donald Trump.
I am incredibly disappointed. I love Ted Cruz. He's an honorable man. I'm so proud to be from the same state as him. And I was just really hoping and expecting that he would endorse Donald Trump. I'm very disappointed that he didn't get behind him.
What does it tell you about Ted Cruz that he didn't?
It tells me that he didn't get over some things that I feel like he should have gotten over. We've seen other former people running for the candidacy that have been able to put their feelings aside and get behind him, and I just wish he could have taken their lead and done the same.
Do you think this feeds the narrative that this party remains divided about Donald Trump, and that's a problem going toward November?
No, I'm not going to give him credit for keeping the party undivided. I think this party has really come together this convention. I think Trump has done an excellent job getting people, just the energy from the first day till now has increased immensely, and I think that the party's coming together, with or without Cruz. It's going to come together, but I just wish that he would have helped bring it together a little bit quicker.
Do you think this will hurt Ted Cruz in the state of Texas?
I think it will. I think it's going to hurt him. I think it's going to hurt him nationally too.
Because Trump supporters won't forget it.
Not just that, because I like Ted Cruz. I think people can forget it, but I think that he loses a little credibility. I think it makes him look kind of like a sore loser, which is really disappointing to me because I really love him. I love the guy, and I'm so sad that I'm feeling like this for him.
What'd you think of Donald Trump's entrance right near the end, stealing the senator's thunder?
I don't blame him. I don't think he felt that endorsement was coming, and I don't blame him. I think it was well planned on his part.
Hardball politics right in front of everyone.
Absolutely.
Kendall Jessup, Longview, Texas. Thanks so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Nora and Scott, back to you.
Major, thanks very much. John Dickerson's down at the podium. John?
Scott, earlier in the night, Laura Ingraham shook the rafters when she said, the big boys who lost to Donald Trump need to kind of man up and support him and endorse him now. And the place went crazy, which gives you some sense of the energy in the room that was expecting what Ted Cruz wanted. But, when party officials were talking to the various people who were going to speak, some of them, one senator told me that the chairman of the party, Reince Priebus, said you can speak and you don't have to endorse, trying to find a kind of way around the idea that some Republicans will say, I support the nominee of the party, but don't want to come out and say, I support Donald Trump. They want to kind of try and finesse that. Well, we saw tonight what happens when you try to finesse that to Ted Cruz. He came into the room with huge applause, and he left to booze.
Fascinating indeed what has happened here tonight. John Dickerson, thank you. All the while, the former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, who was one of Donald Trump's top 3 choices to be his vice presidential pick, is speaking. Let's listen.
We know it because they openly bragged about it to the New York Times. We know that Hillary Clinton lied to us knowingly about the terror attack on our Benghazi consulate. We know that Hillary Clinton and President Obama lie to the American people when they say they can safely screen the Syrian refugees. They cannot. And yet, Hillary wants to increase the number by 500%. So when you hear about Hillary's dishonesty of the emails or taking millions from the Saudis and other Middle Eastern dictatorships, remember, this is not about politics. The cost of Hillary's dishonesty could be the loss of America as we know it. The first step forward to safety is electing a leader who will be truthful with the American people about the realities we face. Only then will we understand, support, and demand the strategies required to confront this threat. And because safety and security are the preconditions for our freedom and prosperity, it is also the first step toward rebuilding the America we love. Donald Trump understands this, and that's why he will rebuild our military, because he knows that a strong military is the best way to ensure peace. Donald Trump will secure our borders, because there is no such thing as a nation without a border. Donald Trump will enforce our immigration laws. He will end the policy of deliberate non-enforcement and will end the abuse of our visa programs to protect American workers and their wages. Donald Trump will take care of our veterans by holding bureaucrats at the Veterans Administration accountable. He will fire those responsible for the waiting list and will give veterans more choices about their care. With Donald Trump's leadership, no bureaucrat...
Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich firing up the crowd tonight. Speaker Paul Ryan and the vice presidential nominee Mike Pence when we come back from Cleveland.
Donald Trump is right. We are at war with radical Islamists. We are losing the war, and we must change course to win the war.
Vote for the one candidate who does not need this job.
And we are back here in Cleveland. An extraordinary night here on day 3 of this convention. We're about to hear from the vice presidential pick, but there's disunity. Ted Cruz not endorsing Donald Trump. Charlie Rose on the floor. Charlie.
Nora, it's amazing here on the floor to see the former Speaker of the House who wanted to be vice president. We're going to hear from the nominee for vice president of the Republican Party. It is an interesting time here when you see Ted Cruz not endorsed and see him receive the kind of boos that he receives. Shows something about the Trump movement. It is beyond the Republican Party, and they use the word movement because, in a sense, there was a vacuum. There was a vacuum in terms of what was happening in the country, the economic discontent, and there was Donald Trump, who seized the opportunity and went beyond the Republican Party. And this convention will decide whether he can bring them together, and everything will hang on what he says tomorrow night. He continues to break the rules. He's in the House this evening watching the events as he watches his vice president. We certainly will go up and talk to him afterwards. But this is a convention that continues to surprise us.
Charlie Rose on the floor. Thank you, Charlie. Let's bring in Bob Schieffer. Bob, we haven't seen a Republican convention like this in a very long time.
And what we just saw when Ted Cruz was booed off the stage, I mean, he had this crowd in the palm of his hand. They were rapt. They were paying more attention. And then when he said, vote your conscience, they started booing the New York delegation and literally booed him off the stage. This tells us where the Republican Party is now. The old crowd is not here anymore. The outsiders are now the insiders, and there was plenty of room for them because the outsiders had either already gone home or, were gone somewhere else. This is a new Republican Party. They're not going to stand for advice or anything else from those who oppose Donald Trump, and this, we saw it tonight.
And Donald Trump's not going to let anybody steal his convention, walking in the midst of Cruz's speech, trying to steal some of the thunder. We want to go now to the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, who is introducing now his good friend, Governor Pence. Let's listen.
As governor of Indiana, he passed the largest income tax cut in state history. He balanced its state's budget. This man is a Reagan conservative through and through, pro-growth, pro-life, pro-strong defense. And most importantly, he is the father of 3 beautiful children, Michael, Charlotte, and Audrey. And he calls his wife, Karen, the best part of my life. My fellow Republicans, the man that you have nominated, he's a man of faith. He's a man of conviction. He's a man you can trust. He comes from the heart of the conservative movement and from the heart of America. And now we need to send him and Donald Trump straight to the White House. There is no doubt in my mind that he will bring real change to Washington. I have every confidence that he will do us all proud. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce to you the next Vice President of the United States, Governor Mike Pence.
Finally getting himself into prime time tonight with an introduction of this season's vice presidential pick, and the crowd has gone wild, Scott.
Governor Pence once described himself as Rush Limbaugh on decaf. We will have to see how much excitement he can maintain in the audience tonight, but right now they're on their feet and happy with their choice for the number 2 spot on the ticket. Indiana Governor Mike Pence.
Mr. Chairman, delegates, friends, and my fellow Americans, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I am deeply humbled by your confidence, and on behalf of my family, here and gone, I accept your nomination to run and serve as Vice President of the United States of America. And let me thank Speaker Paul Ryan for that gracious welcome. Paul, you're a true friend and a great American leader. But Paul knows me well, and he knows the introduction I prefer is just a little bit shorter. I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order. You know, I'm new to this campaign, and honestly, I never thought I'd be standing here. I thought I'd be spending this evening with all my friends from the great state of Indiana. Yet there I was, a few days ago in New York City, with the man who won 37 states, who faced 16 talented opponents and outlasted every one of them, and along the way brought millions of new voters into the Republican Party. You know, he's a man known for a large personality, a colorful style, and lots of charisma, and so I guess he was just looking for some balance on the ticket. Well, for those of you who don't know me, which is most of you, I grew up on the front row of the American dream. My grandfather immigrated to this country. I was raised in a small town in southern Indiana, in a big family with a cornfield in the backyard. Although we weren't really a political family, the heroes of my youth were President John F. Kennedy and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. When I was young, I watched my mom and dad build everything that matters: a family, a business, and a good name. I was raised to believe in hard work, in faith, and family. My dad, Ed Pence, was a combat veteran in Korea. Dad ran gas stations in our small town, and he was a great father. If Dad were with us today, I'd have a feeling he'd enjoy this moment and probably be pretty surprised. But it's such a joy for me to tell you that my mother is here. Would you join me in welcoming the light of my life, my mom, Nancy? You know, growing up, I actually started in politics in the other party until I heard the voice and the ideals of the 40th president, and I signed on for the Reagan Revolution. But the best thing that ever happened to me, even counting tonight, is that 31 years ago, I married the girl of my dreams, a school teacher, an artist. She is everything to me. Would you welcome my wonderful wife, Karen Pence? And regardless of any title I'll ever hold, the most important job I'll ever have is spelled D-A-D. Karen and I are blessed. Karen and I are blessed to be the parents of the three greatest kids in the world. A writer named Charlotte, a college student named Audrey, and a second lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps, Michael J. Pence. I'm so proud of you guys. Now, if you know anything about Hoosiers, you know we love to suit up and compete. We play to win. That's why I joined this campaign in a heartbeat. You have nominated a man for president who never quits, who never backs down, a fighter, a winner. Until now, he's had to do it all by himself against all odds, but this week, with this united party, he's got backup, and on November 8th, I know we will elect Donald Trump to be the 45th president of the United States of America. Now, we'll win because we're running on the issues facing this country and because we're leveling with the American people about the stakes and the choice. You know, the American people are tired of being told. They're tired of being told that this is as good as it gets. They're tired of hearing politicians in both parties tell us that we'll get to that tomorrow while we pile a mountain range of debt on our children and our grandchildren. And as Ronald Reagan used to say, they're tired of being told that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives better for us than we can plan them for ourselves. In the end, this election comes down to just two names on the ballot, so let's resolve here and now that Hillary Clinton will never become president of the United States of America. Now, Hillary Clinton essentially offers a third Obama term, and the role is perfect for her. She championed Obamacare because years earlier she had all but invented it. The national debt has nearly doubled in these 8 years, and her only answer is to keep borrowing and spending. And like the president, she thinks the path to a growing economy is more taxes, more regulation, and more government. Now, they tell us this economy is the best that we can do. It's nowhere near the best that we can do. It's just the best that they can do. And let me tell you, I know firsthand it doesn't have to be like this. In my home state of Indiana, we prove every day that you can build a growing economy on balanced budgets, low taxes, even while making record investments in education and roads and health care. You know, Indiana is a state that works because conservative principles work every time you put them into practice. Now today, while the nation suffers under the weight of $19 trillion in a national debt, we in Indiana have a $2 billion surplus, the highest credit rating in the nation, even though we've cut taxes every year since I became governor 4 years ago. We have fewer state employees than when I took office, and businesses large and small have created nearly 150,000 new jobs, and there's more Hoosiers going to work than ever before. That's what you can do with common sense Republican leadership, and that's exactly what the no-nonsense leadership of Donald Trump will bring to the White House. You know, Donald Trump gets it. He's the genuine article. He's a doer in a game usually reserved for talkers. And when Donald Trump does his talking, he doesn't tiptoe around the 1,000 new rules of political correctness. He's his own man, distinctly American. And where else would an independent spirit like his find a following than in the land of the free and the home of the brave? The funny thing is, the funny thing is, the party in power seems helpless to figure out our nominee. The media has the same problem. They all keep telling each other that the usual methods will work against him. They keep thinking they've done him in, only to wake up the next morning and find that Donald Trump is still standing and running stronger than ever before. The man just doesn't quit. He's tough. He perseveres. He's gone about as far as you can go in business, but he's never turned his back on the working men and women who make this country grow. And Donald Trump will never turn his back on those who serve and protect us at home and abroad. You know, it's been a heartbreaking time for the women and men in our law enforcement community. And in this time of great testing for them, let's let them know, here and now, all across this country, we will always stand with those who stand on the thin blue line of law enforcement in America. Now, while Donald Trump was taking my measure as a possible running mate, I did some observing myself. I've seen the way he deals with people who work for him at every level. And I've seen the way they feel about working for him. Now, I'll grant you he can be a little rough with politicians on the stage, and I'll bet we see that again. But I've seen this good man up close. His utter lack of pretense, his respect for the people who work for him, and his devotion to his family. And if you still doubt what I'm saying, remember, as we say back home, you can't fake good kids. How about his amazing children? Aren't they something? These are the true measures of our nominee, chosen by the voters as the right man for these times. This is the outsider, my running mate, who turned a long-shot campaign into a movement. Now, over in the other party, you know, if the idea was to present the exact opposite of a political outsider, the exact opposite of an uncalculating truth teller, then on that score, you got to hand it to the Democratic establishment. They outdid themselves this time. I mean, at the very moment when America is crying out for something new and different, the other party has answered with a stale agenda and the most predictable of names. People in both parties are restless for change, ready to break free of old patterns in Washington. And Democrats are about to anoint someone who represents everything this country is tired of. You know, Hillary Clinton wants a better title, and I would too if I was already America's Secretary of the Status Quo. You know, the choice couldn't be more clear. Americans can elect someone who literally personifies the failed establishment in Washington, D.C., or we can choose a leader who will fight every day to make America great again. It's change versus status quo. And my fellow Republicans, when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, the change will be huge. You know, for years we've had fundamental problems in America that get talked to death in Washington, D.C., but they never get solved, and they even get worse. We've seen entire stretches of our country written off by bad economic policies in ways that are deeply unfair to American workers. We've seen relentless mandates from the executive branch. It seems like no aspect of our lives is too small for the present administration to supervise, and no provision of the Constitution is too large for them to ignore. Meanwhile, we've seen borders that go unrespected, a military that's been diminished, and promise after ringing promise to our veterans promptly forgotten. Then Donald Trump came along and started saying what practically everybody was thinking anyway, that our leaders need to be stronger. Under Donald Trump, our deals will be smarter. Our soldiers will have what they need, and our veterans will have what they earned. We will secure our borders, protect our nation. In all this, we will be more serious, and when we do, this nation will start winning again. You know, that's the message that men and women in both parties have been longing to hear. But none of us should think for 1 second that this will be easy. The outcome of this election depends on us and how we contend with an incredible onslaught that's coming our way. You know, this won't be America's first glimpse at the Clinton machine in action, as Bernie Sanders can tell you. And this time around, she'll have the press doing half her work for her. The good news is it won't be nearly enough. Not against a candidate who's captured the attention of the country the way Donald Trump has. On issue by issue, he and I will take our case to the voters, pointing out the failures of the Obama-Clinton agenda and showing a better way. We will win the hearts and minds of the American people with an agenda for a stronger and more prosperous America. Now, the establishment in Washington, D.C. thinks it's only a narrow range of voters who are giving Donald Trump a serious look. But I can tell you firsthand, there's a lot of Americans out there who feel like Democrat politicians have taken them for granted. It's union members who don't want a president who promises to put a lot of coal miners and coal companies out of business. Those miners want an American energy policy, and they know that Donald Trump digs coal. It's African Americans who remember generations of hollow promises about safe streets and better schools. And they know Donald Trump will fight for equal opportunity, and he loves educational choice. And it's Hispanic Americans who respect the law, want jobs and opportunities for their families, who know that Donald Trump will uphold the law and get this economy moving for every American. You know, the party of Lincoln was founded on equality of opportunity. And during these difficult days, it will be our party and our agenda that opens the doors for every American to succeed and prosper in this land. You know, in so many ways, the Democratic Party has abandoned those it used to protect. Maybe they become too entrenched in power, so comfortable at times that they lose patience with the normal legislative process. It's so much simpler to impose their values by executive order or court action. And make no mistake about it, Hillary Clinton has some big ideas along those lines, too. As this election approaches, every American should know that while we're filling the presidency for the next 4 years, this election will define the Supreme Court for the next 40. We all better think very carefully about what this means for our Constitution and limited government. Elect Hillary Clinton, and you better get used to being subject to unelected judges using unaccountable power to take unconstitutional actions. So let me say, for the sake of the rule of law, for the sake of the sanctity of life, for the sake of our Second Amendment, and for the sake of all our other God-given liberties, we must ensure that the next president appointing justices to the Supreme Court is Donald Trump. And Hillary Clinton's record on foreign affairs gets even worse. You know, it was Hillary Clinton who helped undo all the gains of the troop surge, a staggering failure of judgment that set ISIS on the loose. It was Hillary Clinton who instigated the president's disastrous agreement with the radical mullahs in Iran. And it was Hillary Clinton who left Americans in harm's way in Benghazi, and after 4 Americans fell, said, "What difference at this point does it make?" As the proud father of a United States Marine, let me say from my heart, anyone who said that, anyone who did that, should be disqualified from ever serving as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the United States of America. Seven and a half years of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton's policies have weakened America's place in the world. Terrorist attacks at home and abroad, grim and heartbreaking scenes from France just a few short days ago, and the attempted coup in Turkey all attest to a world spinning apart. History teaches us that weakness arouses evil. Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama's foreign policy of leading from behind, moving red lines, feigning resets with Russia, and the rise, rule, and reign of ISIS are a testament to this truth of history. We cannot have 4 more years apologizing to our enemies and abandoning our friends. America needs to be strong for the world to be safe, and on the world stage, Donald Trump will lead from strength. Donald Trump will rebuild our military and stand with our allies. Donald Trump will confront radical Islamic terrorism at its source and destroy the enemies of our freedom. And if the world knows nothing else, it will know this: America stands with Israel. You know, if you looked at the calendar this morning, you might have noticed the presidency of Barack Obama ends exactly 6 months from today. And this much is certain. This much is certain of the Obama years. They're not ending well. There seems to be so many things that divide us, so few great purposes that unite us as they once did. And it's at moments like this, moments when politics fail, that I believe we do well to remember that what unites us far exceeds anything that sets us apart in America. That we are as we have always been, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Should I have the awesome privilege to serve as your Vice President, I promise to keep faith with that conviction, to pray daily for a wise and discerning heart for who is able to govern this great people of yours without it. My fellow Americans, I believe we have come to another rendezvous with destiny, and I have faith. Faith in the boundless capacity of the American people, and faith that God can still heal our land. But we have a choice to make. This is another time for choosing. If you want a president who will protect this nation, confront radical Islamic terrorism and rid the world of ISIS, if you want a president who will restore law and order to this country and give law enforcement the support and resources they deserve, if you want a president who will cut taxes, grow our economy, and squeeze every nickel out of the federal bureaucracy, if you want a president who will build strong borders and enforce our laws, and if you want a president who will upend the status quo in Washington, D.C. and appoint justices to the Supreme Court who will uphold the Constitution, we have but one choice, and that man is ready. This team is ready. Our party is ready. And when we elect Donald Trump, the 45th President of the United States, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. And God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.
Indiana Governor Mike Pence about to be joined by running mate Donald Trump on the stage.
And this was the speech these delegates and Republicans were waiting for. Very well received. John Dickerson is there on the podium. John?
Well, the new hire seems to have done well in front of the boss. Donald Trump pointing to him and letting him bask in the acclaim here. You know, Governor Pence has kind of put the moment back on the beam after the Ted Cruz non-endorsement. The reason is that Pence is loved by conservatives. He's an evangelical. He's a true blue member of the grassroots, and therefore, if he's supporting Donald Trump, that knits Donald Trump, the outsider, into the Republican coalition. I've been doing a little reporting on the Cruz speech. The Trump team knew what Cruz was going to say. The irritation is that he didn't improve a little bit on it. That he basically, it was such faint praise as to be non-existent. And there's a lot of irritation, although it's still not clear. They did read that they did have the speech and the remarks in front of them, so it may be a little after the fact irritation, but there's no question that in the Republican National Committee and in the Trump campaign, they're very irritated with Senator Cruz.
John Dickerson, thank you very much. Ted Cruz earlier tonight walked out to a thunderous standing ovation and then ended up being booed off the stage after he told the convention that in November people should vote their conscience, and he did not endorse Donald Trump. Mike Pence being joined now by his family. one son, two daughters, and his wife. And we'll go down to Gayle King on the floor with the delegates.
Hello, Scott and Nora. I'm here, of course, with Charlie Rose. Listen, the Indiana delegation says that Mike Pence knocked it out of the park as they expected that he would. But this crowd, this is the first time a lot of them are meeting and seeing him, and they like what they saw. They're giving him an A++ tonight, Charlie, with that speech.
I think that's obvious. What he did is he delivered the applause lines that they wanted to hear. But what you're seeing right now is what they want to see, which is Donald Trump, and they can't wait for tomorrow night.
And how do you not like a guy who pays tribute to his wife and to his mother and says he will pray every day for a wise and discerning heart? That's very special.
And the interesting thing, if Donald Trump doesn't win, you might see two of the people who'll be contending in 4 years, yes. Mike Pence and Ted Cruz.
All right, Gayle King and Charlie Rose there on the floor. A terrific speech by Mike Pence. He hit all the right notes, Bob Schieffer. But did the party, the Trump-Pence ticket, step on their own message tonight?
Well, I think, for Mike Pence, that is kind of the tragedy here. He made a very fine political speech, but all the stories tomorrow, all the commentary is going to be about Ted Cruz getting booed off the stage because he told people to vote their conscience. If the Republicans didn't want him to say that, they had the speech. Why didn't they tell him not to appear? I mean, again, I don't understand kind of who's running this deal.
Why did they let Ted Cruz on stage?
Well, that's the part that remains something of a mystery, but we see this great divide now and the disorganization of the Republican Party.
Well, it's after 11 o'clock Eastern time, so I'm afraid we're making America late again.
Well done, Scott.
This convention concludes tomorrow. Full coverage tomorrow morning with Nora O'Donnell, Charlie Rose, and Gayle King on CBS This Morning, and we'll have a full wrap-up for you on the CBS Evening News. Until then, good night from Cleveland.